Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast. Today, December the 11th. We're rocking on till Christmas. So I hope everybody's doing well and that the season is being good to you. We have to end on time today, so I'm going to be speaking at a slightly faster pace. The point of all of this is that those people who are interested in a clutter buddy or ever might be interested in a clutter buddy at some point have a good idea of who they are, um, as far as the different types of personalities and different types of the way we see the world and the way we process information, and which then becomes our needs. That's the fundamental foundation piece of many of our needs, far before life experience, sort of what you were born with. All right. So I'd like to take the mystery out of that. And then there may be maybe one more podcast where we do a look at an aspect of things that will play out as you and your clutter buddy um, relate it to one another and use each other as supports for decluttering, I'm supposing. But it could also be the next podcast. And my thought is that I really like the idea of a resume, and not with a lot necessarily of personal information, but about what each individual's strengths are and what their areas in need of improvement, your preferences. And today's podcast is going to be really, really helpful to objectively look at what your needs are and why. Okay. So I'm going to start. I'm going to be doing a fair amount of reading here. So today we're going to look at how to appreciate and work with the differences in others. All right. We're going to look at this because even the right clutter buddy is almost certainly a different type from who we are as individuals. And we need to be able to appreciate what our needs will be when we encounter these differences. The other thing it will help is, even if you're not interested in a clutter buddy, understanding the way you see the world and the way you engage with it and others is a really important factor in eliminating or reducing self-blame. All right. So, what our needs will be when we encounter the differences in others, rather than assume that the other person, just doesn't understand. So, let's get started. I looked and looked and looked, and I came up with a really well written book. I'll just go get it. I want you to see it. It's called Peer Power, book one, and there's a book two, and it's a monster, by Judith A. Tyndall, PhD. This is not a book I'm recommending you get. I just want you to know the information that I'm using largely, as well as my own clinical experience. Okay, so she put together a handy dandy little checklist. So get out your papers and pencil, all right, because this is going to be really valuable and really important. How many people here have heard of the Myers-Briggs? It's a test. Well, it's not actually a test. It's a series of outlines of what distinct types of personality um, in people are, and what their needs are, and also what their blind spots are. All right. So we're going to go through that, not as in an actual psychological test, more of a checklist. Okay. So how many people here have heard of it? Their number. How many people here have taken it before? Okay, I know when I took it, it answered a lot of my questions about me. And it also explained a lot of, how can that be? All right, so I want all of you to know that as we make progress and we encounter others through different experiences, we are involuntarily integrating from those experiences. And it is possible that we can to some degree, change the balance of the categories that you measure today. All right. And the ones that you started out with as you develop and grow. We never become entirely different people, however, but we can stretch. Stretch is a good thing. I don't personally and professionally believe that it's appropriate to try to go through the actual Myers-Briggs assessment tool on a podcast. I think that would be irresponsible. But I do want to give you some of the information so that we can build on it. All right. All right. So, and I want you to use that information, please, to reflect about yourself and about your reactions to things. Because um, if we don't do that, sure as shooting, we're going to encounter them. And I would like us to have a better way to navigate the differences that we'll experience with other people. So, papers and pencils at the ready. Put a tick beside any of the following statements. All right. Just put the keyword and a tick or an X. Okay. And these following statements are largely about they apply to us as individuals. So deep breath. Here we go. Do you demonstrate energy and enthusiasm? Is that what most people would say about you? And is that sort of what you pretty much experience yourself? Don't forget, if that's true, it calls for a tick. If it isn't, it calls for an X. Okay. Do I respond? Do you respond quickly without needing to think? Do you act quickly before thinking? Are you someone who talks and thinks at the same time? Do you get tired if activities are long and slow and seem to drag on? Do you talk a lot? No problem with that, but do you talk a lot? Are you verbal? Oh, very verbal. Do you seem to have many friends? Not everybody does, and that's perfectly okay. Do you? Do you learn best by interaction? Do you learn best by hearing? Okay. Do you share emotions and thoughts as they occur? So you're pretty spontaneous. Do you seem to do many things at the same time? Do you feel scattered in your energy? Do you seem to jump from one thought to another without going deeply into the subject at hand? So, to the extent that those things are true, these are all characteristics. They're not good, they're not bad. All right. They're all characteristics of extroverts. We've all heard of extroverts, right? Okay. What that means is that when someone exhibits these traits, their energy, the thing that they use to mobilize themselves, generally comes from the outer world of people. If you're isolating yourself, how is that working for you? How is that working against you? All right, do you want to rethink that? Not in an extreme way, but in little baby steps moving forward out of isolation. Or do you need to know the person before you trust them? Really, you really need to know them. Do you prefer to work or play one-on-one? One of you, one of somebody else. Okay. You really don't like and don't do well in groups or crowds. Do you think for a long time and then maybe act? Do you work or play as a preference alone? Do you work and play alone patiently for a long time? Do you enjoy learning, but by reading or visual cues, not auditory, visual? I mean, not entirely, obviously, this is a visual auditory world, but your preference. What do you like the most? What do you gravitate to? Do you keep things to yourself? Do you hesitate somewhat before trying something new? Do you seem to have a few but close friends? And you prefer to work, when you're working, you prefer to work in a quiet place. Somebody needs to mute themselves, please. Do you appear to bottle up emotions? Do you think about a topic really deeply before going on to the next topic? Do you typically not volunteer information in a public setting like a meeting or a class or a group, family gets together? Do you concentrate your energy, not surprisingly, okay? So you hold on to your energy, you concentrate it, you don't dispense it, you don't spend it from one thing and another and another. Okay. Not surprisingly, these characteristics, these traits, would indicate that you lean more toward being an introvert. Okay, nothing good, bad, or indifferent about that. That's just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Okay, so next let's look at where you are today, right? At this point in your life, about being a sensing person. So sensing types of personalities exhibit the following traits, and they perceive immensely, most reliably, the information they absorb, they hold on to and believe and are comfortable with far more likely when they obtain it through their senses. Okay? They're step-by-step people. Sensing people are practical and realistic. So, are you someone who wants to hear the main idea first and then work out from there in spurts, little chunks of concentration of energy and and attention, not an even flow? All right. Do you enjoy learning new things? Do you enjoy being different? Doesn't bother you in the slightest. You kind of see it as a positive. The uniqueness of you. Do you generally, I mean, preferably, look at the big picture first? Do you have a vivid imagination? Do you often lose things? Do you go quickly from one thing to another? Do you work and play in fits and starts? There's that chunking, not continual. All of these are sensing traits. This is going to be important. Okay. Okay. Now, intuitive people, on the other hand, are people, they're still perceiving, okay, sensing and intuitive, but they're doing it through intuition. Sensing is through intuition, right? These people, sensing people, are often futuristic. They're not restricted by what's in front of them right now. They're looking out at the horizon. They're the visionaries. They're the people who can see it before it happens and they can see how it would evolve. And that's where their focus is. That's their strength. Instead of sensing people or intuitive people, do you instead ask why a lot? Yeah, but why? Okay, but why? All right. Do you ask why a lot? Do you insist? You keep bringing the conversation back to logical explanations. Are you someone who, whether you have clutter or not that's out of control, that's a little bit irrelevant right now, all right? Do you like to arrange things in an orderly pattern? Whether you clutter or not, these two things are not contradictory. Do you show more interest in ideas rather than people? It's not that you don't show an interest in people. We're talking about where you lean first. Where is home for you? Where's that comfort spot? Okay. Do you stress the importance of fairness? Is it really important to you, whether you get it or not, that you like recognition, your recognition, for doing things well? And you like to see other people get it too. You believe strongly in things. You spend time thinking about things, issues, whatever it is that's uppermost in your mind for that day or that time in your life. You are often brief and concise when you make a statement, when you talk. Okay? You can come across as critical. It's not your intent, but you can come across as critical. You're also somebody is far more likely, not universally, not 100%, to appear calm in a crisis. These traits are indicative of thinking types. Okay. Those who exhibit the traits we just mentioned are almost always making decisions based on an objective thought process. Or do you like to know the person before doing business? You don't just walk in and do business, take things as fact. All right. Do you like to know the other person before doing business? Do you like to talk or read about people? Do you want to be praised for caring for others? Is it a driving need or force in you to want to help if someone is unhappy? Do you tell stories expressively and in great detail? Do you try hard to be tactful and not hurt somebody else's feelings? It's a big thing with you, though. Nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but is it something that you would really like to avoid at all costs, if possible? Do you want to be told that you're loved and cared for? Do you relate well to people? These are some of the traits of feeling types. No better, no worse, no more important or less important than any of the other types, just who they are. Those who exhibit the traits I just mentioned are usually making decisions based on personal feelings. Or, yes, there's a fourth. Are you someone who really, we're talking really likes timetables? All right. And doesn't have a high tolerance for last minute changes. Do you like to know what's going to happen in the future? Predictability. Do you enjoy choices? So a choice is a decision. And closure. Not a lot of hanging on details that are uncertain. Okay. Do you give yourself time? Do you like to set goals? Do you have pretty definite opinions? I'm not saying that they're rigid, but when you hold them, they're based on observation, research, thought. You do best with deadlines. That vague thing of sometime doesn't work for you as well. Do you like to be in charge? Do you like to make decisions and continue on with whatever task? All right, make a decision, move on. Do you like to meet somebody at 8 a.m. sharp? We're talking sharp. None of this, okay, how about sometime around 8 o'clock? That would drive you crazy. No, no. What is it? What is the fact? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. People with, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's not better or worse. It's just what it is. People with these traits are more likely to be of a judging type. Judging is not a bad word. And they tend to exhibit traits while relating to their world through the judging function and typically prefer life to be orderly. They do best when it is well planned, right? Orderly and well planned. Okay, last but not least, people, do you instead like spontaneity? Do you show curiosity? Do you become energized by new ideas and experiences? Does that just really float your boat? Do you have difficulty with deadlines? Do you often perceive work as play? Do you appear open to new ideas? You have an open mind. Do you really like and, and comfortable with new ideas? All right. Do you rush at the last minute to meet deadlines historically? Do you like to get more information before making a decision? Yeah, but I need to know more. I need to dig deeper. Do you like options? None of this, here's the one answer. I want options. Okay. Do you enjoy autonomy? And what that means is so that you're not dependent on anyone and no one is dependent on you. You can relate to people, but you don't want an obligation of dependence. Two independent, self-reliant people who are functioning. Okay. Do you often experience the need for still more information? Is it hard for you to feel that you have enough information to make a decision on any topic before making a decision? Okay. Like you want to see someone tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow is not 8 a.m. sharp. It's tomorrow, and you're comfortable with that. Or not need to see the people. All right. You don't need to see the people imminently just because you want to see them. Like, tomorrow's fine. Sometime. These are some of the traits of perceiving types. Those who exhibit these traits are relating to their world through their perceiving, their observing function, and typically prefer a lifestyle that's flexible and spontaneous. Now, take a second and count the number of times you've checked and recorded numbers in the appropriate spaces. The types, okay? For people who are interested, although I probably would do it with everybody, I may have Shalom do what she did the last time, which is make this a handout so that you can kind of fine tune it a bit. It is not the entire Myers-Briggs test, but it is sort of the skeleton of it, okay? Okay, so how many times have you checked and recorded numbers in the appropriate spaces, not the right spaces? You didn't pass because of the number. You didn't fail because of the number. These just indicate your own preferences. Extrovert versus introvert, sensing versus intuiting, thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving. So why do you think we did this little exercise? We did it so that each and every one of us can appreciate that the reactions of others are something best worth the attempt to accept and understand, as opposed to feeling alienated and misunderstood or misaligned with someone. Okay. When we join others in an activity, we now have a way to see they're just different, not annoying. They are just different. Okay. There is not necessarily a right or a wrong, a good or a bad. It's just that there's a fit or not between our mutual differences and perhaps their view, their method of integrating, whatever it is. If we're to understand, it's essential, if we're to understand each other and work together, it's essential for each of us to consider that likely all options and all views, all methods of assimilating information or formulating a plan together, then actioning that plan together and assessing the merit of repeating it that way, that plan together, perhaps we need to have a more complete picture of ourselves. So we won't be surprised that extroverts are more likely to be social than solitary. The great thing about that, and vice versa, all right? The great thing about that is that the same space, there's a positive to that. The same space isn't trying to be occupied by two people at the same time and competed for. In a relationship, even like a clutter buddy, it's something to be considered that we don't need the same space at the same time. We don't have to have a host of kumbaya moments. Okay? They're talkative, these extroverts, versus quiet like introverts. They are extremely focused versus internally focused. They consider many things at once rather than diving deeply into just one thing, which might be our habit. They have or are more likely to have many friends versus deep friendships. If you're a deep friendship kind of person and you're pairing with an extrovert who has, you know, a Facebook following of 500,000 people, you're different. You're different. You just accept the differences, okay? They expend energy. Here's a biggie for working together. They expend energy. You're more likely to preserve energy. They're more likely to be outgoing. Rather than focused on thinking, they speak and later think, as opposed to you maybe who think and later speak. I'm trying to get you to see it as differences. They're somewhere else on the continuum. They're just different. They're not better or worse. Extroverts are action people. Introverts are reaction people. Now let's look at sensing versus intuitive. Sensing people, all right, usually get to the point. Intuitive people usually walk around the point or explore more about the point. Sensing people, which can be a little frustrating when you're talking, all right, sensing people are here and now people. Intuitive people are future thinking people. You've got a different horizon. All right. Sensing people are concrete in their perceptions and their concepts. Intuitive people are conceptual people. Sensing people really toil at work. Intuitive people, not so much. They're more inspirational. Sensing people are actual. They deal with the facts. Intuitive people consider the possibilities. Can you see how this could work or not work with a clutter buddy? All right. Okay. Sensing people have their feet solidly on the ground. Intuitive people have their head in the clouds and not in a negative way. That's how they see the horizon. They don't get distracted by what they're stepping on right now because they're not going to stay stepping on it. Their view of the world is different. Sensing people like facts. Intuitive people like dreams. Sensing people are practical people. Intuitive people see the imaginative possibilities. There is no definite permanent reality. All right. And that is one good way of looking at things if you know what to do with it. Okay. Intuitive people are energized by the fantasy. Sensing people are step-by-step people. What are you starting to realize here who your best match is? Because that's what I'm hoping you're doing. And nobody's right, nobody's wrong, nobody's good, nobody's bad. What's your best fit? Sensing people are step-by-step people. Intuitive people are prone to jumping to conclusions. Does that drive you crazy? Okay, which sometimes turn out to be fact. Sensing people are specific. Intuitive people see the end point right from the overview. That's why their heads in the clouds. Sensing people like to work and make decisions based on recent experience and profound experience. Intuitive people like to work from hunches, which sometimes works out. Now let's look at what can be said about thinking people versus feeling people. Thinking people, they deal from their head. Feeling people deal from their heart. Thinking people think in terms of laws. So a lot of lawyers, judges, that kind of thing. All right. Thinking people think in terms of laws. Feeling people deal from perceptions of the situation. Perceptions, not fact. Thinking people are big on fairness, big on what's right. Feeling people persuade. Thinking people are objective. Feeling people are subjective. What are you more comfortable with? What would be a good fit for you? Thinking people are clear. They're not always right, but they're clear. Feeling people are comfortable with fuzziness, a little more vague. Okay. A lack of precise clarity, and they're perfectly comfortable with it. They know what to do with it. They know how to manage it. It works for them. Thinking people can come across as detached. Feeling people get involved. Thinking people with concepts deal with concepts of justice and what is right. Feeling people deal with what is humane. There, it takes all kinds to make a world. Just understand what your kind is and what you need as a result. Thinking people are seen as logical. Feeling people are seen as sentimental. Thinking people deal from principles. Feeling people, listen to this, thinking people deal from principles. Feeling people deal from values. Thinking people can be perceived as impersonal. because they're looking at fairness, they're looking at justice, they're looking at what's right. That can come across as a little detached, impersonal, all right? It has its place, however. Feeling people are more likely to be perceived as personable and personal. They want to know the intimate details so that they could factor that in to their understanding and their response. Thinking people critique. How do you come across? How do you respond if somebody is critiquing something that is is important to you? Feeling people appreciate. Okay, even they appreciate what's different. They appreciate your point of view. There's space. There's more space. Not the definite lines of right and wrong. Okay. One is no better than the other. One last category. Judging versus perceiving. Okay. The following are the characteristics of judging and perceiving types and how they differ. How they differ, is that going to get under your skin? Or is it something that you're comfortable with? Judging people analyze, right? They'll be analyzing the plan, they'll be analyzing the issue, they'll be analyzing. That can get very frustrating if you're an action person, all right? Perceiving people prefer options. There's a flexibility there. Judging people need order. And you would ask yourself, maybe, how do they end up with excessive clutter? They end up with excessive clutter because when things get overwhelming, it's not their strong suit to work through that necessarily. All right? You see how this can play against you as well and cause a problem. So you will meet judging people. You will meet perceiving people. Okay. So judging people need order, and they need it whether they have it or not. All right. Perceiving people appear disorganized, but aren't necessarily any more disorganized. They appear that way because of all the possibilities. Can you see how that could work against you in making decisions, in deciding on categories? If you see multiple elements of something, how do you put it in a category with something that isn't exactly the same, a facsimile? That can get a little crazy making when you enter into all the possibilities and can't make a decision as a result. Judging people like to settle things. Perceiving people are more comfortable when things are pending. All right? Things are pending because there's more possibilities, more options. They're good with options. Okay. Judging people like to decide. Perceiving people like to wait and see. They're not procrastinating necessarily. They like to wait and see, like to keep their options open. Judging people are more comfortable with fixed perceptions and fixed situations. Yeah, but we agreed we'd do this, so we have to do that, despite the fact that perhaps the atmosphere or something about it has changed that isn't being factored in. A judging person is going to stick to that plan. All right, going to want to anyway. Perceiving people are more comfortable with flexibility. There's room for both. Judging people like closure. Perceiving people are more comfortable with open-endedness. We said we'd finish by that time. Well, we can give ourselves an extension. It's more that it's done properly and we're satisfied and happy and it's resolved than that it's the deadline. Okay. Judging people like and need a timetable. Perceiving people are perfectly comfortable with tentative arrangements, a vague discussion. Okay, so around that time. All right. Judging people are scheduled. If you're not scheduled and you're paired with a judging person, you're going to drive each other crazy. All right. and they want to stick to the schedule as well. All right, that's one of their strengths. Or they seek being scheduled. It's very debilitating for them when things don't work according to plan and predictable. Okay, that's one of their strengths. They do best in those kinds of situations. Be careful who you pair up with. Perceiving people are spontaneous, or they're more likely to attempt to be spontaneous. All right. Judging people like and need deadlines. Perceiving people are more likely to see deadlines as a point of discussion. Yeah, I think we could talk about that. Yeah. All right. It work. Both work if you're paired up with the right type. All right. Okay. Judging people like an attempt to be decisive. They do attempt to be decisive. Perceiving people are far more comfortable with flexibility. How flexible are you? Everybody's flexible a little, but at what point does it drive you crazy? Does it feel like we're off track here? All right. Because here's the other thing I want to say. Nobody is 100% any one of these types. When I did the Myers-Briggs professionally, I came out within about I hovered around that center. I wasn't an extreme sensor, judger, extrovert, introvert. And I thought, you know what? That explains a lot. All right. It was very freeing to think, okay, that's why I do that. That's why. That's not a contradiction. Okay. Judging people judging people, they're not bossy, okay, necessarily, but they do like to control a situation. Okay, or have control in a situation. Perceiving people like to adapt on the run, on the fly. They're good. Change the plan, not a problem. Judging people like and need a plan ahead of time. Okay, they don't do well impromptu. They don't. It's not their strong suit. They achieve far more and are more comfortable. Perceiving people are comfortable far more in an unstructured sort of situation. Judging people tend to be more structured. So as we look at these different traits, can you see that there are ways that we as individuals lean more and represent more to some types? Okay, A type. And that there is no discordance or conflict. There's no problem with people being different because someone is different and has different needs. Your needs are going to come out of what your strengths and your blind spots are. So there isn't a conflict, all right, just because you have different needs. The reason I've gone through this exercise with you is and asked you to informally rate yourself, which I hope you have done with your ticks, is so that as we choose a clutter buddy for ourselves, we choose someone who we can mesh with. Okay, so how strongly an extrovert if you're an introvert, how strongly a perceiving if you're a sensing, a judging versus intuitive. So I guess the next question we should ask ourselves is, out of these ticks, what are your strengths? And what might be some of your blind spots? Because you're going to encounter them. The blind spots aren't weaknesses. They're not deficits. They're just blind spots. You cannot be good at everything. And when you try, you'll be good at nothing. You try to be good and perfect at everything, you'll be good and perfect at nothing. Okay. And if you attempt to be, you often end up being, as I said, good at nothing. So you can't be both sides. You can be more or less of each of these. I want you to think of them as tracks, okay? Coming out as if it was like a sunburst. And in the center, they all meet at the center, all right? So where are you? And in each of these, how strongly are you? That makes a big difference, because 3 times out of 100, yes, that's true. Okay, that means, yeah, you have a little bit of a taste of that about yourself, but it's not the biggest driving force. All right, so that's where maybe if Shalom can make a handout of this and you folks can go through it, all right, that would be helpful. Watch the website, and I'll get her to post something with where you can retrieve this, okay? All right, so is it possible that, like me, you may be hovering somewhere around the center of each one of these? And what does that say? What does it say about your needs? It's about matching up with somebody you are compatible with. Maybe these are some of the things that when we have that meet and greet on the podcast in the different rooms, maybe you want to come with some questions. Maybe you do want to develop a resume, and we could post the resumes. No personal information, no contact information. That's one of the reasons that I've done these podcasts is I don't want anyone, you can imagine how a sensing person could end up as a caretaker to somebody who feels needier. All right. That person is better maybe to be matched with someone else who's not going to put their needs on the back burner. All right. Everybody gets taken care of equally, and this works, but it works based on a good match. So we have 10 minutes. We do have to end on time today. So any thoughts or feedback? Shall we unmute or one at a time with hands up? Dawn, can you keep an eye on hands up?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Anybody want to make a comment? Okay. Can you also save the chat and mail it to giftofhealth@gmail.com when I copy? I would rather that. I'm not going to um, copy the chat because I don't know whether the direct messages get copied at the same time. But the information, if you go to the website, there'll be a posting there saying that the handout for this podcast date, December 11th, is here, and this is the link. Okay, I think that's the way Shalom did it the last time.
I'm wondering if you recognize what could be, I don't like to use the word deficits, but things that may delay things or make things take longer, for example, and you see them as perhaps a weakness in yourself. Do you then try to match up with someone who's a little bit more, I'm talking about discipline, to be honest, like more staying on the path, because I'm probably more of the meandering type, but I might need to be reined in a bit. But then I'm also more of the sensitive type. I'm not really putting it in the words of the Myers-Briggs, but is there some room there for matching up a little bit of strengths and weaknesses where it might be useful?
There could be. Here's the thing though, Kim. It takes understanding, all right? You would want, if you do kind of lean toward less structured but sensitive, you don't want someone saying, what's wrong with you? Here's what you do. That wouldn't come across well at all or be respectful. You'd need to talk about it. So in a situation where and pick a situation that you've actually had, what would your response be as a clutter buddy to that? I think asking those kind of pertinent reality-based questions would be a good thing. The one thing you don't want though, Kim, is you don't want the other person to be the leader. You both have to be equal as clutter,
No.
right?
Yes, I see
So,
that.
so,
Yes.
no, so I really don't want instructions on this. I'm just saying that I'm more likely to do this. And so how would you receive that? Um, if you are a strong judging type, that might not be a mesh, even though you like the person quite well, because they just, and the other thing too is there's nothing that says we can't um, have maybe a 4 session um, where you work with different people and you find out how it works and doesn't work. Sort of like, what do they call that game where everybody runs around and the seats are empty and then you sit and somebody and and
Musical
and you
chairs.
okay, yeah, musical chairs. Yeah, I forgot it. It's been a long time since I've been to a kid's birthday party. So we could do trials as well. But that's where in a resume, a summary that you want to post, I really like that idea. If people really would like to try having a clutter buddy, then you do a resume. This is even your first name and what types you were and how you see um, what you need in a clutter buddy, as well as what you have to offer a clutter buddy.
I think
And
that's a good idea, doing a needs and wants, I guess,
yeah, and needs
to
and
try and
strengths.
figure it out. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what has a little bit at the bottom about what has been your most frustrating thing about clutter and what has been your strongest positive about clutter. Maybe right now you're highly cluttered, but there was a time when you cleaned a room or you did something that was meaningful, like really meaningful to you. And because nobody who's here, myself included, I don't happen to clutter. I got lots of other faults, okay, believe me. We're all human here. So just be human and try out, 2 or 4. We could agree on that. What would be, and then adapt as needed.
Thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome. Hey, we got like 6 minutes. Anybody else? B? Yes, Edie. Yes.
So thank you so much for everything you do, Elaine. So that's my first thing. But also, I was wondering, there's a couple of us in the UK. So is the clutter buddying going to be necessary? I understand you're not arranging it, but is it something that we're going to be doing remotely, like
I,
maybe
I would think
uh,
so. I would
yeah,
think so. And just for um using Zoom, like there's a free version of Zoom, all right, that you
yeah,
can use. And I would suggest that before, because one of the things that can happen um, is, first of all, it can be very threatening and very nervous making to have people into your home when you're not comfortable with it.
yeah,
And um, your best match may be in Texas. All
yeah,
right. So don't miss your best match just because geographically you're not um,
yes,
in the same area. I would say, and for safety's sake as well, you don't want to, if a place is cluttered, um, it has a higher risk for accident. All right. So I'd like everybody to be safe. And you know what? I do counseling and clutter coaching to Tokyo, so, and Hong Kong,
sure,
and
sure.
half of the United States, and northern, like we're talking northern Canada, around the Arctic Circle. I'm thinking we can do England, Canada, and the
Yeah,
biggest The biggest thing there would be the time difference. You know, are you
Yeah,
a morning person or not a morning person? Yeah. Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just wondering exactly that about the time difference. So I'm in Australia.
Okay.
It's currently 3:56 a.m. here.
Oh, dear heavens.
But I'm very keen. And I'm just wondering, how do we navigate that part of it? Like, let's say that we find a match that's in another country. How do we figure those things out? Like, is there going to be a bit of help with that, perhaps, even?
Absolutely. So, unless the person has a work schedule, outside the home, or everybody's working from home now, but it's a work schedule, a definite work schedule. What are the compatible times? It might be a morning for you, but if it was like, you're how many hours, Kim?
Uh, well, I've been speaking with a couple of people who are in this podcast thing from England, and I'm Australian Eastern Daylight Time, Daylight Time, which is GMT plus 11, I think.
You're plus
About 11 and a half hours from us.
11 and a half hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so where would be 11 and a half hours? Like,
But okay, so I've got 3:57 a.m. here at the moment, so almost 4 a.m. in the morning. If
okay,
that helps.
okay, 4 a.m. So, if you were, say, 4 p.m., or in that, 10 in the morning to 6 or 7 at night, where would the best match be for you?
I'm not a morning person.
Not a morning person. Okay.
No.
So noon till, say, 6 or 7.
Yeah, noon till late is good for me. I don't mind late because I'm a night owl. So
Okay.
if that ends up matching somebody that way, that's fine by me. But early mornings, I'm very sluggish and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's okay. And some people aren't. So where would be a good match? So what time would it be in
Oh, it
Canada?
depends. It depends I don't know. I'm really not very good with the time zones. So you just have to think Greenwich Mean Time. When it's not daylight savings for us, it is 10 hours plus.
Okay. 10.
Yes, I think but we're in daylight savings time, so we're 11 plus. So if
Okay.
I look up anything, it just says GMT plus 11. So I try to figure it out from that. So I'm
Okay.
very sorry. I'm really not good with the time zone.
We can help you work it out, Kim.
Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
thank you, because I'm really,
Hold on.
I'd have to get, I'll just
Hold on
mute
one
myself 1 second.
Okay, hold on. Okay, is anybody here in Texas? No. Anybody here in the mid-US? Anybody here in the mid-Canada? Anybody here in Ontario? Okay. So right now, so that wouldn't work because 3 in the morning plus 11. So what would 7 at night be?
If I can help with that, I have a friend in Australia who, when it's 4 a.m. for me, she's getting off work, and it's like 5 p.m. I think for her. So yeah, because it's about 11 hours difference, I think.
Would there be, where's the window? You've called her many times when she's sort of midstream in her day and you're midstream in your day, even though it's the opposite part of the day.
Oh yeah, I mean for me, I'm nocturnal, and so like at 4 o'clock in the morning, like I go to bed at like 6 a.m. So
Okay, so that's another thing you could add to your resume. All right, and that is, are you a morning person or are you a night owl? All right, and that will help us. And you know what, Kim? We'll find a match. There has to be a match somewhere. All right, we'll find a
Thank
match.
you.
We'll find a match. I have to run now though because My husband is having a geriatric assessment as far as safety not falling at 1 o'clock. And I have to pull all the dog sheets off of the furniture in the living room. So that people can sit and it looks civilized. Yes, I put dog sheets on the furniture because they're little dogs and they like to sit on the back of the couch and supervise the world in great volume. So I'm going to run now and I will see you next week. Everybody have a good one. All right. And put those resumes together. Take care.